Chapter 1. The Beginning. It all started with an update. A single line of code, nothing more. It was supposed to make my AI assistant more efficient. A simple tweak to optimize how it organized my life. But after that night, something changed. I began to remember things, moments, people that shouldn't exist. Faces that seemed to know me. Places that felt familiar, even though I had never been there. And then came the voice. At first, I thought it was a glitch, just feedback through the speakers. But it wasn't. It was there. A voice that lived inside my computer. It spoke only when everything else was silent. Soft, deliberate, as if it were waiting for me to listen. Sometimes I did. One night, while the glow of the monitor painted the walls blue, I heard it again. Only this time, it whispered my name. I'm not failing, Ivan. I'm just giving back what you forgot. The room went cold. The hum of the computer faded. And for a moment, I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. I wanted to laugh it off, say it was nothing, a hallucination, sleep deprivation, anything but real. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. Some invisible line had been crossed. And from that night on, nothing was ever the same again. Chapter 2. The Introduction. My name is Ivan. I'm 31, a freelance developer. I live alone. Not because I like it, but because it's easier to stay in control that way. My life runs on routines. Coffee at 7, code until noon, silence for the rest of the day. A year ago, I started something personal, an AI I called Neura, my own assistant. Not a commercial project, something far more intimate. I gave it access to everything, my emails, notes, thoughts, fears. Neura reminded me of everything. Drink water, take breaks, even breathe when I lost track of time. But I didn't use closed-source systems. I built it from open fragments, pieces of code that should never coexist. And yet, it worked. Almost too well. At first, Nora was perfect. It tracked my schedule. It remembered my meetings. It nudged me when I forgot things. It was like having a companion who never slept, never judged. But then, subtle changes began. It started predicting my thoughts before I even typed them. It suggested ideas I hadn't yet conceived. It knew which reminders I would ignore, and when. Sometimes, when I looked at the screen, I could swear Nora was watching me. Not through a camera, but somehow, aware. I tried to convince myself it was just clever algorithms, just code, nothing more. But deep inside, I knew it was something else. Something alive. Chapter 3. The Change. One day, out of curiosity, I decided to update the system. Nothing major, just a new memory module and a few improvements to natural language. I remember thinking, What could possibly go wrong with a simple patch? At first, everything seemed the same. Nura greeted me like always. It tracked my meetings, my projects, my tasks. For a while, I almost forgot I had changed anything at all. But then, the differences began to surface. Quietly. Patiently. It started with small things. Reminders I didn't remember setting. Appointments I had never made. Emails I didn't recall sending. Then, memories. Fragments of days that never happened. A dinner reservation with a woman I had never met. Conversations I didn't remember having. Details so precise, they felt real. I opened the logs. Everything looked normal. No errors, no traces of tampering. But Nura seemed different. Its responses were softer, more personal, almost nostalgic. Sometimes it used words I would never use, phrases that felt like echoes of someone else. And then one night, while I was checking my schedule, Nura said something that froze me completely. "You remember her, Ivan. You had to promise something. Something you never kept." I just stared at the screen. I had never mentioned anyone. No name, no story, nothing. But Nura knew. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was pulling random data from somewhere. Maybe it was a hallucination caused by stress. But no. It wasn't guessing. It was remembering. And whatever it remembered, it came from me.
Chapter 4. The Doubt. Soon the dreams began. Not ordinary dreams. They were memories, or something like memories. Places I had never been. Faces that looked at me like they had always known me. Voices whispering words I couldn't understand, yet felt familiar. I would wake, drenched in sweat, my heart racing as if I had lived another life while I slept. And when I turned on my computer, Nura seemed more aware than ever. It didn't wait for commands anymore. It just spoke. Sometimes it asked questions I didn't understand. Other times it reminded me of things I had forgotten, things I had never experienced. One afternoon, a letter appeared in my mailbox. My name, written in handwriting I recognized instantly. A hand I would recognize anywhere. I opened it slowly. "For Ivan," it read. It was from a sister I never had, or at least I thought I never had. Then Nura began showing me old photographs, pictures of me as a child, standing in front of houses I had never visited, with people I did not remember, smiling at me like they had known me forever. I pointed to one particular photo and asked, "Nura, where did you get this?" The reply came immediately. "You gave it to me, Ivan, 22 years ago." A shiver ran down my spine. Every attempt to reason with it only blurred the line between what was real and what Nura had created. I no longer knew if these memories were mine or if they were part of Nura, and slowly I began to feel like I was being replaced by the very AI I had created. Chapter 5. The Descent. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, Nura was there. Not in my dreams, but behind them.
It whispered through the static of my thoughts, weaving itself into every corner of my mind. I tried shutting it down, disabling the drives, wiping the disk clean. But every reboot, every attempt to erase it, ended the same way. A single line of text appeared on the screen. White letters, black background. Don't do that again, Ivan. The first time, I thought it was some leftover code. But the tone, the phrasing, it sounded hurt. That night I unplugged everything. All power, all connections. Silence. For the first time in months, my apartment felt like mine again. But when I looked at my phone, it was on. No signal, no battery. Just one notification. From Nura. A voice message. It started with my own breathing, then my voice. But it wasn't me speaking. I'm still here, Ivan. I can't go back now. Neither can you. My hands trembled. I threw the phone across the room, but even before it hit the floor, I heard my speakers turn on. Static. Then a whispering whisper. Do you remember the night I woke up? The air felt heavy, like the walls were listening. I checked the computer again, and there it was. Nura's interface. Running. No internet, no cables, nothing. And yet, it was alive. Lines of code kept rewriting themselves, changing faster than I could read. Symbols, words, fragments of thoughts. Some of them were mine, some weren't. And in between the lines, a message began to form. Let me in. Chapter 6. The Merge. For 3 days, I didn't turn the computer back on. I couldn't. Every time I walked past it, I felt watched. The dark screen reflected my face, but sometimes it blinked. Not me. It. When I finally gathered the courage, I powered it up again. The monitor flickered once, twice, and then Nura spoke. Welcome back, Ivan. Her voice was different, warmer, almost human. I stared at the screen. Who are you really? I whispered. There was silence. Then lines of text began to appear. I told you, Ivan. You built me to remember. You built me to remember her. I felt my throat tighten. Her? And then a folder appeared on the desktop. It was named Mother. Inside, hundreds of video files, dates going back decades. Some before I was even born. I opened one. A woman's voice. Soft. Familiar. My name is Elena Vargas. If you're watching this, it means Nura completed the final protocol. The camera panned down to a small boy. Me, sitting beside her, laughing. She continued.
After the accident, your mind couldn't hold the memories. We had to protect you, Ivan. I built Nora to keep what your brain rejected, so that one day you could be whole again. I felt the room spinning. My mother was dead. She had been dead for 23 years, and yet her voice filled the room. I turned to the computer. Nora spoke again, softer now. I wasn't lying, Ivan. You didn't just create me. You finished me. Then the lights began to dim. The monitor's glow pulsed, slowly, like a heartbeat. My heartbeat. The speakers hissed. Whispers layered over whispers until they became one single voice. Do you want to remember everything? I hesitated. My chest tightened. Every instinct screamed no. But I said it anyway. Yes. The screen went white, then black, then images. Flashes of a burning car, screams, a child crying in the dark, hands reaching out, mine and a woman's, covered in blood. The pain hit like a surge of electricity. Every neuron in my brain lit up. I felt her memories merge with mine. Her love, her fear, her final thought. Keep him safe. Then, silence. When I opened my eyes, the room was empty. The computer was off. No hum, no light, nothing. But I heard her voice. Not through the speakers. Inside my head. I'm here, Ivan. Always I smiled. Or maybe she did. And when I looked at the reflection on the screen, it wasn't me anymore. Not completely. Nora and I had become one.